So you want to know what your strength ratio should be. What are some good numbers to go for? What's realistic? Well, in today's episode, we're going to talk about what some realistic strength goals are for a generalist mover, meaning somebody that doesn't specialize in gymnastics or calisthenics or weightlifting or anything like that. Make sure you stick around because Yani and I are going to break this down into something that gives you some really tangible goals. All that and more coming up. Hey everyone, in case we haven't met, my name's Rad Burmeister. I'm one of the co-founders of Unity Gym and UMS, the Unified Movement System, where we turn driven people into superhumans. Now, the way we get such astonishing results with our members is that Yani and I have created a program that has a perfect balance between strength and flexibility. It's very unique. If you want to know how we do that, you can download one of our free blueprints. There's the flexibility blueprint, the strength blueprint, and the nutrition blueprint. There's a link in the description of this video for all of them. Choose the one that you want to get or get them all. Now, I'm joined by my brother for the first time in a little while. How are you, bro?
Unity! Yeah, I'm really good, thank you. I've been missing in action from these live shows for a while. This is the first time I've been a part of the Facebook live stream. But we've been working on some really big projects in the background to make this place just generally more awesome.
Oh, there's so much going on. If you could see, Yani and I have these regular meetings where we're sitting down and trying to get the list of all the things that we're working on down to something that's more manageable. And for anybody that's been following us for a while, you know that we work our butts off to make things happen. We are not the kind of trainers and business owners that just sit around twiddling our thumbs. So there's some really cool stuff coming.
On another note, though, I'm glad I'm on this side. This is my good side. My right arm is bigger than my left arm, and it makes me look slightly bigger than Rad there, I think. So that's the most important part.
Phil has asked not to talk closer and back from the microphone because it's going to be harder for the podcast.
Yeah. Sorry, podcast listeners.
You just did it
again.
You just literally just did it again. Just sit back and talk. Everything will be good. So we've got a really good question today, and it's come off the back end of how we move people from our foundations program into the progressions program. And there's two questions. One is from Alex Seabrook, which I'm going to answer second because that's a longer answer for Alex. The first one, it comes from Brandon Kaleman, who said, I'm digging into all the structural balance work and I'm wondering if there are benchmarks of relative strength for a generalist mover to have the most athletic and capable body possible. For instance, a double bodyweight back squat or deadlift or any other body weight prevent ratios for the testing lifts. And there absolutely is. We're going to go through a bunch, and Yani will chime in here with his thoughts as well. But in the UMS, what we look for a generalist mover for a good standard is a double body weight back squat. These are for single reps, a double body weight back squat, a triple body weight deadlift, and a 1.5 times body weight bench press. A body weight overhead press, so a standing barbell press.
You just said a triple body weight deadlift?
Yeah.
Would you really?
Yeah, or did we say 2.5 times? Okay,
yeah.
sorry, 2.5 times body weight
triple
deadlift.
Body weight deadlift is pretty good.
Yeah,
that's like
okay, so 2.5 times body weight
natural
deadlift.
competition level
Yeah,
for a powerlifter.
Okay, sorry, I got that wrong. So 2.5 times body weight deadlift, 1.5 times body weight bench press, 1 times body weight overhead press, and then as far as the pulling movements go, we look for a pull-up, we'd look for 8 chest to bar pronated grip pull-ups, which is
Jesus fucking Christ, this is like moving the Death Star.
Yanni's trying to move my computer. You can't see it off screen.
Holy crap, you should see his computer.
So yeah, those are some really good benchmarks. Now you've got to think to yourself, if that stuff scares you, then it should. I mean, we're not going to tell you something that's just around the corner from you. Otherwise, what's the point? You're going to be looking for something else. These are realistic goals. We have all achieved some, most, or all of those goals at some stage during our training. And what we're doing now is, because this is the whole purpose of the UMS. Over the years or decades of training, Yani and me have ebbed and flowed with what we've focused on, and so we've hit goals and then we've lost that strength or lost that flexibility and then come back to it. And the whole goal of the UMS now is to create this training system where not only do we hit those goals, but we maintain them, and we maintain our strength and maintain our flexibility so it's always there and always usable.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that there's not many people that can discuss what they are capable of and demonstrate it at any moment. And generally, as like we discussed the other day, when you run towards something, you're always running away from something else, and so it's difficult to create a program or a system where you are constantly leveling up all aspects of your physical capability.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So that's what the UMS is there to do.
One thing I'll say is what we just mentioned with the squat, the deadlift, the bench press, things like that, overhead press. There is going to be physical nuances that are very much personal to you in regards to your physique, your body shape. People with longer arms are usually always going to be better at pulling a big deadlift. People with longer legs are usually always going to be worse at squatting. So you've got to also take it with a grain of salt.
These are loose, ideas.
Absolutely.
It's not like if you never achieve these numbers, then you've failed. The other thing...
They're benchmarks. There's something to aim for.
And the other thing to think of as well, which I think is really important to do, is we would not recommend pursuing these benchmarks until you achieve structural balance in the body. So that's what
this is what I was about to add, and this is why I love our system so much. It's you versus you. And I think that the focus should be more on creating that structural balance using the formula, the testing formula, as opposed to, I want a double body weight back squat or a 2.5 times body weight deadlift. Like, sure, that's like the next step, but first of all, try and achieve structural balance, because that's hard enough in itself. That's a journey for most people in itself, and during that journey and that process, you're going to become, one, very, very fluent in your ability to assess yourself and understand how your body's working. You're going to become a brilliant program designer, because it's going to require that during that process of being able to take the data from your testing and turn that into a cool program. And you're going to come out the other side, being a very capable... you'll be more capable than most personal trainers.
Absolutely.
Seriously.
And for those of you that take the time to go through this testing process several times and create your own programs and understand it, you'll know more than the average personal trainer about programming. You absolutely will.
Absolutely.
And when we say the average, I mean probably 90% of personal trainers. So Kumaran's jumped in here and said, morning all, actually managed to catch the live feed on Facebook today. Awesome, bro. Thanks.
And Kumaran, you've finally got a name that represents who you are, as opposed to...
now we know.
YouTube.
Instead of Bioseed, It's us scratching our heads going, man, this Bioseed dude sounds like he really knows us.
That's right. Awesome.
Kumaran, for those of you that don't know, Kumaran is a member of the gym. All right, let's move on to Alex Seabrook's question, because this is the bigger one that this show's more about. So Alex has said, I would be interested. I've got to try and get close enough to read this, but far enough away from the mic that I'm not changing the levels of my voice. I would be interested to understand whether there are any key markers in strength, flexibility, or the ability to do certain exercises that indicate whether a person is ready to move on to the next phase or more difficult exercises. So that's referring to, in the UMS, we have levels of exercises and they go up in difficulty. When you look at the program and you look at the progression chart, which is a part of the program, there's levels for the difficulty of the exercises. So there absolutely are some key markers, Alex, but they're not set in stone, and it's a really good question because there's a few things that you need to understand. And I really hope that you all pay attention to this, because this is really important, and this is where so many people get things wrong. The number one key marker that you look for whether an exercise is too difficult for you or not is, can you do 3 perfect reps at least? If you can't do 3 reps with perfect technique, it is too hard for you. People jumping around, and people like Daniel Vadnal from Fitness FAQs, who's a weapon in calisthenics, totally backs this up. If you can barely do one good rep, and when you try for that second rep, the exercise is too hard for you. It's more of a show-off tool. It's more of a, hey, look, I can do one handstand push-up, but it's not something that you would put into a workout. Would you agree with that, Yanni?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And in my opinion, which is one of the reasons why we use a 6RM strength test, that is that if once you have a decent training age, so you've been doing this style of training for 1 or more years, I'd say, maybe 2 years is a good goal, then the moment you can do more than 6 or 7 reps easily at the load that you're doing, you're probably ready to progress.
Yeah. So I'll talk about that in a sec. So the next thing to understand is, even though with what I said, there is a, I can't believe I'm using this word because you've bloody said it so many times, a caveat. Fucking Yani. He's got it in my head. I've never said that word in my life before. There is an exception to that rule, and that is if you're trying to bust through a strength plateau and you're looking at a body weight exercise, and if you can, maybe do 1 or 2 good reps of something, you can play around with hybrid sets, but you wouldn't stay on that for too long. You'd just do it for a couple of microcycles, which means that, okay, the handstand push-up is a perfect example. So let's say you're stuck on the pike push-up, which means your feet are on the ground, these are your feet, these are your hips, and these are your hands, and you're like this doing your pike push-ups like that, and you're trying to get from there up to a feet elevated pike push-up, but you can do 1 or 2 really good reps, but you just can't get to 3. You can play around with doing 1 rep of this one and then a bunch of reps, which is a hybrid set. But after you've really maxed out this possibility of what the pike push-ups can take you to. So when you're really consistently doing sets of 8 reps of perfect technique on that pike push-up, but you just can't seem to bust into that 3 rep range of the next progression, then that's it. Would you agree with that?
Yep.
Yeah. So
look, one of the things that I think I've come to realise is really consistent among people who are at an elite level of movement practice is that they spend a lot of time working on the same stuff over and over and over and over and over again.
I mean, what's his name? Christopher Summers from Gymnastics Bodies. His method is... Now, take this with a grain of salt because I've only done the Gymnastics Bodies online courses, and I've done one of their level 1 face-to-face course where you go and do a 2-day workshop with them. So take this with a grain of salt. Please don't say this is set in stone what Christopher Summers teaches, but from what I understand, what he does is he gets people to choose a progression that they can do for 5 to 8 reps, and they stay on that one progression until they get up to the 15 rep range, and then they move to the next progression. So there is definitely a lot of people that have a different input on that same kind of philosophy, and in the Gymnastics Bodies way of doing things, they'll get you on that same progression for months and months and months until you really get your head around it. It's not something that we agree with. It's not the way we like to do it, but it's an example of someone doing it that way.
There's so many different ways of doing things, and I reckon we're going to hear a very different way of doing things when we have Simon Ater, Cy Monster Strength, on the podcast next month. Because he has a very different training philosophy than we do, and he likes to train maximally, as far as I know, and I've only heard this in passing all the time.
This is what Daniel told us.
Yeah, this is what Daniel's told us, and I'm sure... he's
going to be hard to argue with because he's
so good.
Weapon.
Absolutely. But
I'm looking forward to the discussion.
Yeah, absolutely.
It'll be good. So the next thing to think about, Alex, how do you know when you're ready for the next progression is, so you can do your 3 reps, is you have to choose the progression that's right for you based on the current microcycle. So those of you in the UMS online coaching, this week the microcycle is accumulation, which means that you're going to be doing, for someone like you, Alex, at your training level, you'd be doing about the 8 rep range, 8 to 10 reps. So you're going to choose a progression where you can do 8 good reps on. But in the next cycle, next microcycle, when we're doing strength, and we're going to be doing wave loading, where we're doing 2 sets of 5 reps, then upping the difficulty, 2 sets of 3 reps, then upping the difficulty, 1 set of 2 reps. That's when you can go to a different progression. Using calisthenics for your pull-up progressions, you could go to a harder variation, something that you can only, just do 5 or 6 reps on, and then you'll add a little bit of weight to yourself, for example, like with a pronated pull-up or whatever, or something like that. So that's another way where you know whether you're ready for the next progression or not. Anything you want to add to that, Yani?
No, not really. Yeah.
And it's all about So everything that I've just said, they're basic rules of thumb, but it's all about basically giving your body the time to really go through an adaptation from that exercise. And it takes time. It takes longer than what most people are willing to understand. You have to just do repetition. Your body will strengthen all the connective tissue. It'll strengthen the muscles. It'll strengthen the neural pathway. I actually said all of that in the reverse order that it happens in. So first you'll strengthen the neural pathway. The movement itself will become stronger. Then you'll actually thicken the muscles, and you'll hypertrophy the muscles from it, and then you'll strengthen the connective tissue. You have to. It's not good to just sit on the same progression, in our opinion, for too long. We like to mix up the progressions. I wouldn't stay on the same progression for more than 2 mesocycles, and I would, as a general rule of thumb, I would even change which progression I do from mesocycle to mesocycle, or at least change the rep ranges. Like, with a squat, you would, be changing the rep range, even though you're still doing a back squat. You're not just going to do the exact same rep range, continuing from mesocycle to mesocycle. Yep. Anything you want to add to that?
No, not really. That's pretty bang on, and just be patient with the movements that you're working on. Volume is key, I think. I think volume is one of the most important things that people underestimate. They go for intensity naturally because intensity is going to allow them to look cool.
Yep.
Volume doesn't look cool, except for the pump you get after it. Volume is just painful.
Yeah.
And so we tend to find that we migrate or gravitate naturally towards doing higher intensity workouts because it's less neurologically destroying on the muscles, and it looks better
painful,
because
you
get to do
like
bigger weights, you get to do harder movement progressions, and but the problem is that a lot of the time that level of intensity doesn't allow you to get enough volume in the workout, so you're falling short of where you need to be in your workouts.
So what Jan is referring to, for those of you that don't understand, is intensity refers to the amount of weight you lift. So when your weight goes up, that's referring to increasing the intensity. And for calisthenics and body weight movements, intensity refers to the difficulty of the progression that you're doing. So in the example before, the pike handstand push-up, going from that to a feet elevated handstand push-up, that's increasing the intensity. Volume refers to increasing the total amount of work done on any muscle group, and there's many ways you do that. You either add volume by doing more reps in every set, you add volume by doing more sets of an exercise, or you add volume by doing more exercises. So if in 1 month, if I was just doing chest press, and then the next month in the same workout I did chest press and push-ups, that's a way to add volume. And what Jan is talking about, I couldn't agree more with that. I think that's actually been one of my biggest breakthroughs in the last 12 months since I had this injury, because I got this injury from chasing intensity, from chasing the next progression and trying to force that change, really going, oh man, I've been doing this progression for so long, I'm going to try and move to the next one, and I injured myself. And since then, it's forced me to really go eat some humble pie and go back to the basics and just refresh myself on stuff that I already knew, but actually put it into practice, not just know it, but actually do it. And that has been to back the intensity off and really focus on manipulating volume until you get to that point where you go, wow, my body is really ready to go to the next level of intensity with this. Let's up it. And then focus on volume. How do I manipulate the volume in each workout? And then go up intensity, rather than what I always did before was every workout I chased more intensity, every single workout. And I think that was a big misunderstanding on my behalf of the way that you make progress, is that inter-workout progress,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Anything you want to add to that, Yanni?
No, I just think that's something that's a real bombshell for a lot of people to let that sink in. Volume is where bodies are made off volume, not intensity.
Yeah, for sure.
Consistency, volume.
Yeah.
And, it's nice to be able to show off, and it's nice to have benchmarks that you strive for, but that's why we only do testing week once every 6 weeks rather than once every week, And that's the volume in between those testing weeks that gets the result, not the testing.
Yeah, and that's another reason why you don't hear us harping on about 1RMs. 1RMs are good, but the last time I did 1RM, I think that was probably about 3 years ago. I honestly haven't done 1 RM in the last 2 years, which means 1 repetition max, which means doing an intensity level where you can literally only do 1 rep of it. If someone held a gun to your head and said, I'm going to shoot you if you don't do 2 reps, you still wouldn't be able to do it. And yeah, there's a place for it, but in the UMS and in the way that we train, it's a small place. So look, if anybody's got any questions, we're going to keep the live stream going for another 60 seconds to see if anybody's got any questions, and otherwise we're going to cut it. You got any final thoughts on this, Yanni?
No, not really. My head's in the clouds a bit at the moment, folks, because I'm managing a lot of different projects. So I do apologise. That's why I feel.
Yeah, Yanni got pulled in. Yanni got pulled into this show literally in the last minute because Phil is busy today. He's working with a mentor, a physiotherapist mentor, and I just grabbed Yanni and said, Yanni, you got to come on the show with me. He didn't even know what we were doing. I said, don't worry, just sit down and you'll pick it up when we start talking about it.
But I will be back. It's just that I'm managing a few other things at the moment.
Yeah, and look, if for those of you that saw our latest YouTube video on the middle splits, you will see that I meant what I said. We are committing to releasing weekly workout videos. We've got another 2 middle splits videos edited, ready to go up, and I'm going to be putting them up tomorrow and Thursday. I've just got to take a thumbnail for it, and I have to do a really impressive middle splits to make it look good, and tomorrow is my middle splits day, so we're going to wait till tomorrow to get that thumbnail. And the next topic that has come up, the next hot topic is pike, how to increase your pike, which is, getting your head to your toes. So I'll do a couple of videos on that, and then I'm probably going to, off the back end of that, do some more videos on press to handstand, because that's been a hot topic for our channel as well. So keep an eye out, because I've made some amazing progress in the last 6 months on all of those things, on the middle splits, pike, and press to handstand. I've got some really exciting stuff to share with you. And
quick shout out before we go, Blakely, the ever impressive Blakely, who's just an all-round awesome guy, and Quack. Good on you for joining us as
Quack
well.
is, anybody that watches our show, you'll notice we give Quack a shout out all the time. He's one of our most loyal viewers. And I just found out, not only is Quack coming down to the End Range Strength Workshop, which I knew about, but he's actually coming down on the morning of the Friday before that. So I've invited him to come and train with us.
Cool.
Because that dude is an impressive dude, man. I've checked out his Instagram page, and he does some really impressive calisthenics. So I'm really keen to have you along, Quack. Come along and do a training session with us, and we'll go for lunch and we'll hang out for the day. It'll be a lot of fun.
Doing those goofy leg lifts on platform things.
Sorry, Yanni's just reading. Read it out loud, Yanni. So Blakely's saying, doing those goofy leg lift on platform things, but finding the balance challenging from End Range 2. Any thoughts on getting started with it? Goofy leg lift things. So Blakely, are you talking about the pistol leg lifts? Can you please just clarify?
Compression.
The pistol leg lifts. I think you are. So any finding the balance challenging from End Range 2. Any thoughts on getting started with it? Yes, there are. Okay, so the ability to be able to get deep into a pistol squat is going to be a limiting factor with that exercise. So there's a couple of things you can do. Number one, you can use heel elevation just like you do with a squat. If you put a little 5 kilo or I guess a 10 pound or 12 pound plate or whatever you guys have in the States, that's about that high. If you put that under your heel, that'll dramatically make it easier for you. The next thing is I've got people at the gym that have had the same question, and if you can actually grab onto the front of the box, that'll help anchor you and clarify as well for me. Do you find it goofy because you feel like you're going to fall back? Because that's what most people do. They try and get down into that position and they feel like they're falling back because it's quite hard to get into that bottom pistol squat position. And if that's the case, grab onto the platform, elevate your heel, have a go from there. Just make sure that when you do it, man, that is a humbling exercise. When I first started that, I had 0 weight on my leg, and I couldn't even get close to lifting my leg to horizontal. And in the video that I filmed for you guys, I think I had 1 or 2 kilos on my leg, which doesn't seem like much, but that's a huge improvement from where I was. So you've got to eat humble pie. You've got to make sure that you don't assist. If my right leg is doing the swing, so my right leg is what's lifting like this, do not push or do like a kipping movement with the left leg. You've got to be really strict, so you're compressing your body forward, sucking yourself down into that pistol squat and holding the body still and relying 100% on the hip flexors on the right leg to make it happen. humbling experience. I don't think you've even tried that exercise yet.
I have. Any compression strength is a humbling experience because you have such a big uptake in neural activity because it's this movement that you're usually not really used to. Now, I'll share a quick personal episode that I'm dealing with at the moment. Some of you may have heard that I did the advanced version of the superaccumulation program over the last 2 weeks. I'm on my last day of the resting period, 5 days off with zero training. And the only area of my body that failed me, that suffered, was my left hip flexor. And it means that I've got to sort of go back to the drawing board and develop better compression strength. So Rad will love hearing that. But it's like you think, okay, I'm doing it for pike and I'm doing it for things like press to handstand. But, I squat 6 days a week, and what fell apart in that insane amount of volume squatting was that left hip flexor.
Yep.
So, Developing compression strength, Blakely, in the hip flexors, it carries over to everything.
And I can't believe how hard and how much it is to develop compression strength and how much I've had to work for it. But it makes sense to me now that I understand it, because when you look at, we've got a member in the gym here, Jess Matheson, who I'm about to post a video of today on our Instagram page. Check that out, of her doing an eccentric stalder press to handstand. She's working on getting it back because she was a child gymnast and she's lost it now. But if you look at her, it's phenomenal the way that people that did gymnastics as a kid, the way that their body maintains that ability to do compression strength. Because when you're a kid, not only does your body adapt very, very, very quickly, so you just adapt to what you do, but you haven't had this adaptation to the chair. So the adaptation to the chair causes real problems, and in the hips especially, it really affects the hip flexors. So as an adult learning how to do compression strength, I'm just blown away as to how much work I've put in versus how little the results that I've gotten. And the results that I've gotten are phenomenal compared to the average person, because I can do really good press to handstands now. So my next goal is the stalder press. But for the amount of time invested versus the results that have been.
You've also got something working against you, which is your pars defect.
Yeah, that's right. My pars defect and my spondylolisthesis.
That's going to help compression strength.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So keep at it, brother. Embrace the suck, and post some videos for me so I can have a look. Do it with no weight to start with. Make those changes that I said. Post some videos in the group for me so that I can have a look and let's see if we can help you.
Hello, Wayne.
Wayne Reed, thanks for tuning in, brother. And thanks for everyone for tuning in. For those of you that are watching on the UMS Movement Mastermind, get your questions in so that we can answer them on the show. For those of you that are watching on YouTube, join the UMS Movement Mastermind. It's our private Facebook group. It's free for anyone. We provide coaching just like this, and it's where our members of our UMS online coaching program, when they post their questions, like today, they get really good answers. And for those of you that aren't part of that group, you're going to benefit from the answers that we give, because we're giving really high level answers from these people that understand our program really well.
And the reason why we are doing that on the UMS Movement Mastermind page is because we can interact at a high level. Our guys can post videos and we can critique those videos, which we can't do on the YouTube platform.
Yeah, we can't do it as well. We believe that we can help our tribe much better by doing it this way. So you guys are still getting it. If you're watching it on YouTube, you can see we still upload them. And keep an eye out for the YouTube videos that are going to be getting posted this week on the middle splits. Next week we're going into the pike. And thanks for tuning in, everyone. Get your questions in.
Get over and subscribe to the Movement Mastermind, Sound of Movement podcast. And,
the podcast.
Yeah, give us a 5-star review
on Spotify. Yeah. Search for The Sound of Movement. And we will see you tomorrow. Have a wonderful day, everyone.
Health is about performance, not just body image.
You better be willing to accept what you're going to have to do to get there.
We'll start focusing on movement goals, strength goals, flexibility goals.
When you nail that skill, it's there forever.
The body image goal doesn't get you that far.
It's the consistency and frequency that's going to get you there. It's not the intensity.
There's no shortcuts to mastery and movement. Destination doesn't change overnight, but your direction will.
The gym is not the place to beat up the body that you hate. It's the place to build the body that you love.
We are the gym that teaches people how to move instead of just exercise, because we believe that health is about performance, not just body image.